It used to be that if you had a dispute against the franchise tax board, like you disputed the amount of money in interest and stuff, or I'm sorry, a dispute of the penalties, you would file your dispute with the Board of Equalization. Now, the Board of Equalization was elected officials, and these elected officials wanted to get reelected. So they had a tendency to favor the taxpayer over the franchise tax board. So I forget which year it was now. It must have been 2018, right? There was allegedly a scandal at the Board of Equalization, and Governor Brown and Betty Yee decided to gut the Board of Equalization and to create a new agency called the Office of Tax Appeals that would hear the franchise tax board appeals. And then they created another new agency called the Department of Tax and Fee Administration. So the Office of Tax Appeals would hear disputes of the DFTCA or whatever it is and the franchise tax board. When it was being heard by the Board of Equalization, people didn't need an attorney. It wasn't a real court. It was a totally casual thing. Now, you could get an attorney if you wanted one, and they actually even offered you a free student attorney through their tax appeals assistance program. But once again, it wasn't required. But with the Office of Tax Appeals, that's a real administrative court with real judges, and they expect you to conduct yourself like a real lawyer. So now you kind of have to either hire a lawyer or use the free attorney program. So so that was 2016 that they made this change. In 2017, Governor Brown and Betty Yee moved the free student attorney program to be under the Franchise Tax Board's umbrella. So that means that your free attorney is employed by the same people that they're defending you from. So in my own case, I did start with a free student attorney, and it was very clear early on that they were sabotaging my case on purpose to ensure that I lost. And when I got demanding about better representation, they fired me as a client and said that they wouldn't represent me. But at that point, I was far enough along in the process that I kind of thought that I had the gist of how court went, and I decided, you know what, I can do this myself. I don't need an attorney. And I did wind up representing myself. And I think I did a kick-ass job. I wrote a really great brief, and I went to court and I represented myself, or I went to the hearing and I represented myself at the hearing. You can see that video online. I think I did a great job of proving that those penalties were falsely imposed. And the Office of Tax Appeals sided with the Franchise Tax Board in a verdict that was so corrupt, it's jaw-dropping. So one of the things the main point that the Franchise Tax Board made was that we had filed late due to willful negligence. And I documented that we had contacted FTB 71 times trying to get these payment issues cleared up. And the Franchise Tax Board's attorney, he's an employee of the Franchise Tax Board, and he was representing them in the OTA court. He improperly redacted and omitted all this proof that we had contacted the Franchise Tax Board so many times. He basically made it look like we were deadbeats who just didn't respond to notices, like we ignored all the notices. He totally created a false picture to the judges. So anyway, we proved that we were not willfully negligent. My big argument was that it was unlawful for a Franchise Tax Board to not apply our payments, and that if they had applied our payments in accordance with the law, no penalties would have been imposed. The Franchise Tax Board never denied that. They just ignored it like I hadn't said it. And then in the Office of Tax Appeals verdict, the judges ignored it like I hadn't said it. So they just disregarded my argument completely, as if I hadn't made it. And this on top of the Franchise Tax Board never denying it. So in California, the law says that failure to deny constitutes admission of truth. So basically, by Franchise Tax Board not denying that the fees were unlawfully withheld, they admitted it was true. And by the judges not addressing it and not actually siding with Franchise Tax Board, they also committed the crime of covering up the illegal activity by not denying that it was illegal. And then Giselle Brunet. So the chief legal counsel for Franchise Tax Board is named Giselle Brunet, or Brunette. It's spelled Brunette, but I guess it's pronounced Brunet. And she showed up to my hearing. And right when the hearing started, the judges told me, or the judges made an announcement in general to the room that they were going to be having a meeting immediately following my hearing, and that everybody not attending the meeting had to leave quickly, like we couldn't dawdle, we needed to get our stuff and get out. So the hearing happened, and then the hearing ended, and I left. And I didn't see Ms. Brunet leave, so they freaking had a meeting. I mean, how much more brazen can you be that they would have this meeting clearly about me and my case, and like tell me I had to leave the room so she could talk to the judges alone? I mean, it's just disgusting how obvious they are in their criminality. And the other thing that I want to mention is that the Office of Tax Appeals does not require the Franchise Tax Board to certify under penalty of perjury that they're telling the truth. So everything that I provided and everything I said in my hearing had to be certified as true, but not the Franchise Tax Board. Nothing that they submitted had to be certified as true. So they're free to lie and perjure, and the Office of Tax Appeals isn't holding them accountable for the truth, which is disgusting. Oh, another thing that the judges did that was corrupt was, so the Franchise Tax Board's accounting ledgers that they submitted to the Office of Tax Appeals are inaccurate. I mean, they're very inaccurate. They have inaccurate dates and all kinds of incorrect information on them. So I proved that the ledgers weren't accurate by submitting canceled checks and web pay receipts. And I mean, I documented fully that we had paid timely and that Franchise Tax Board had lied by changing dates on things. And the Office of Tax Appeals didn't address that at all. They just, again, didn't address it whatsoever, that Franchise Tax Board's accounting records were inaccurate. They just ignored it and pretended like it was a non-issue and like I hadn't provided all that proof. In the case that's currently pending in Superior Court of California, Franchise Tax Board stated under penalty of perjury that they don't keep accurate accounting records when it comes to credit elect payments. So they basically admitted in court that their payments, their accounting isn't accurate. They also committed perjury. Well, first they committed perjury by saying that they don't, that the records were accurate regarding the credit elect payments. And then when I pointed out that they weren't, and that they were missing some payments off the records, that the payments showed on the accounting ledgers, but they didn't show in like the payments made logs. And when I pointed out like the discrepancy, like, hey, you don't show this payment being made, but it shows up on your ledgers, that's when they said that they don't keep accurate accounting records under penalty of perjury.